Today's video, we're going to talk about Google Ads, GBRAID and WBRAID, what these are and why using them makes you a ton of extra cash, okay? The golden rule with Google Ads in today's environment is the better tracking data that your ad account has, the better your ads are going to do. And that means not only just tracking leads, but tracking sales, tracking profit, and tracking it on all devices, tracking it whether users do the prescribed action on the first visit to the site or the second or the third or the fourth, or whether they take the action when they're not on the website, and piping that information back to the ad account, which is what we're talking about in today's video in reference to GBRAID and WBRAID. When a user initially starts out on an iOS device and you want to track a sale that occurred from that user that was using an iOS device in your ad account, so that the algorithm that is running your ads and everybody else's ads will more accurately pinpoint your customers moving forward and get you more and more profit from your ads moving forward. I cannot stress enough how important it is to focus on your tracking. Before you do anything else, if you haven't maxed out your tracking setup, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You're making it unnecessarily hard on yourself. When setting up better tracking, anybody can do it. And if you can't personally do it, you hire a person to get it set up right, or you get systems set up to track everything. But no doubt, every last sale you can track, or if you can't track sales, at the very least, every lead that you can score and you pipe that information back into your ad account about the lead score, that all should be tracked. And if you're doing e-commerce, you should also track sales that occur offline, if there are any, because without that, you're not going to get nowhere near the results. And I'm going to talk about just how much results there is here, upgrading your tracking to track the offline conversion tracking in and itself. And then if you are doing it, lead turns into a sale offline, so you can pass it back to the ad account. That is, you're running ads, you generated a phone call, you figure out if that phone call led to a sale, you pipe that back into your ad account and use that to steer your ads. Doing that and then making sure to track every sale that occurs offline, because Google's updated their systems and there's some stuff that you need to know. And that is in reference to what I'm talking about here, reference to GBRAID and WBRAID, or whether you're talking about sales that occur through the phone for an e-commerce business. Some of the sales may go through the phone. If they do, you'll make considerably more money getting that information back into your ad account. And I'll talk about how much that will make you as well. So regardless of your situation, if you're not maxing out every sale that doesn't occur directly on your website through your shopping cart, you're just throwing away tons of your ad money, tons. Or if another way to put it is, you're throwing away tons of extra revenue that you would have got if you would have simply set up your tracking, as I'm going to talk about here. So I'll talk about all that in terms of how much you can make. Before I dip into the content though, if you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability, basically in excess of the management fees that we charge. We're the only agency out there who offers any kind of similar guarantees, but should tell you something about the quality of the information on this particular video. So with that said, getting into the content, GBRAID and WBRAID in the title of this video here are what helps you track offline conversions, which are sales that don't occur through the shopping cart. So if you generate leads, you want to track the sales thereof of your leads, or track sales that may occur through the telephone, because you take orders over the phone too. Tracking them on an iOS device, so Apple device, okay? Apple in the recent years have upgraded all of their user privacy settings to where the typical means of tracking a sale that doesn't occur through your shopping cart, but you still want to track through your ad account anyway, because it's going to lead to tons of extra money for your business just doing that, which I'm going to talk about how much here in a minute. Normally, that was done through a system that Google had for about 15 years now that used a Google Click ID that exists at the end of the URL when you click on an ad. So in other words, go and click on any ad on Google right now, and you go to the website that it takes you to, you'll notice at the end of the website URL, there's a Google Click ID at the end of the URL. It'll say GCLID equals, and then there'll be a string of random characters, numbers. That is your Google Click ID. Now, still to this day, but going back 15 years now, Google's given us ability to track whether that ad click turned into a sale or not in our ad accounts to steer our ads with by getting that Google Click ID and then passing it back to our ad account. Okay, you still can do this technically outside of iOS devices. Now, if a user is on an iOS device, instead of the GCLID system, there's the WBRAID system, there's the GBRAID system. So literally in the same spot on the URL, at the end of the URL, when you click on an ad, if you're on an iOS device, you're going to see, in most cases anyway, a GBRAID equals, and then there is a code there, or a WBRAID equals, and then there is a code there, okay? Those two codes, which serve to do what the Google Click ID did going back 15 years ago, are a substitute that allows us to track any sales that occur from that ad user that's not tracked or trackable through the shopping cart. We can still track it in our ad account nevertheless. It's just a slightly different process that you have to go through in order to track those users on an iOS device, so you can track them the same way as you can on any other device, if you will. That said, I want to mention here that if more than 10% of your offline sales occur through offline means, if you are in e-commerce business that sells, let's say, house paint, if you know contractors buy it in bulk, okay, but when they typically buy it in bulk, what they'll do is they'll call and they'll ask for a purchase order because they have to run it through their chain of command, and somebody has to end up, the purchasing department is the one that gives and coughs up the credit card number physically and so forth. And the sales revenue that you pull into your company on a regular basis is 10% or greater of that is coming from the offline sales, the sales that occur through the phone and not directly through the shopping cart on your website. That's the time when you absolutely want to do what is known as offline conversion tracking, to track those sales as well, to add to the sales that you track through the shopping cart on your website, to have one complete full picture of the total sales that your account gets, the cart sales plus any offline sales. Why 10% do I say that? 10% because that's where it makes a significant impact on your results, not having that revenue data in your ad account itself. So given that the more conversion data that the ad system doesn't have, the bigger the impact on your results, and it actually compounds. While a lot of people don't want to do it because it's extra steps, it's not automated. They got to hire an actual employee to get the sales data that occurs offline back into the ad account. It's 100% worth it because you're going to be making a ton of extra money just by doing that one simple thing for your account. I'll talk about how much specifically in a minute, but generally speaking, by the way, you can automate this. You could have a Google sheet set up that your sales department, when somebody purchases offline, that you punch in on that sheet, and as soon as a value is typed in on that Google sheet, Google Ads will get that information right away. So it's not totally automated, but you can automate much of it. Or you can do it like we usually do it, which, we're going to put information into a spreadsheet, then upload it to Google manually and do it that way. Personally, I like doing things manually, by the way, because we can physically validate or verify the order as coming from the ads. In that, with the scenario I described before, a lot of times you'll get business customers. The business customers will want to come through the phone and order that way. That said, John Smith will call and he'll inquire over the phone. But then later on, Mary is the one who buys. Well, if there isn't special considerations there to link the two contacts together at the same company, then that sale is never going to get uploaded because that sale is going to look like it's coming from some other place versus the ads, versus you were able to merge those contact records together. You could partially do this, by the way, by having what people usually use as a CRM or customer management relationship system, so that contacts are from the same company are linked together. So when a sale occurs from one contact at that company, it would feed back the Google Click ID that you need, that was captured from the initial contact that came in and initially inquired and initially got the quote. You could do that. You could do that through a CRM, but the best of the best still is manually, because a human can make extra considerations for things. Once in a while, you'll have the husband inquire, then the wife purchases. And in that case, if you will, you want to also merge those records so you get the maximum sales data in your ad account as possible. Given that every bit of extra data that you're actually capturing, you're going to get more results. Namely, because ultimately the bigger purchases are going to come through the phone, just so that you know. And if you studied your own data, I guarantee you'd see the same thing. Why? Because people that order big amounts, they're going to feel more comfortable more often calling before they order. And while they're on their phone, you can lock down their order, which you should be doing, by the way, because if they say, oh, I'll put it through the shopping cart, half the time they will, half the time they won't. The best is getting them to put it through right over the phone with you using a virtual credit card terminal system on your end and say, and if they're hesitant, say, we'll give you 5% off right now if you put it through right now versus wait until later, if they're saying they're not ready yet or have to think about it or whatever. With that said, you are going to have bigger orders on average come through the phone. So if you actively want Google's ad algorithm to optimize for bigger orders, you have to give it all the data, especially the ones that are the bigger orders. So otherwise the algorithm's going to optimize for the smallest orders. How could you complain that you're not getting the results you want if you aren't even telling Google what's actually working the best for you? It's impossible. The system's just not set up for it. The system's literally set up to take data in, make determinations on that data, and decide if your ad shows up in the future or not based upon that data. It's going to look at even when you target a keyword like house paint, it'll decide in real time if you should show up for that person searching for house paint or not based upon all the data it has at the time. And if the people that normally buy house paint from you specifically are of a certain age, of a certain gender, goes to certain websites, like certain things, and they're able to determine that because you've been feeding in high quality data for them to look at, that is people who are buying and that searched for that keyword before, they'll know if it should show up for that person searching for house paint or not. Given that a lot of the people that are searching for house paint are looking for something that doesn't match what you sell. And so the algorithm cannot pick up these micro discrepancies in who your customer truly is unless you give it all the data. And furthermore, if you only give it part of the data, it will only make so accurate of decisions for you. If you're doing lead generation, you're losing easily 30 to 300% of your profit from Google Ads by not doing offline conversion track. Because at least with the e-commerce guys, you might, be optimizing for sales, just not the biggest ones. But you guys doing lead generation in 2025 and beyond, and you're not tracking whether the leads are good or not, and whether they buy or not, or at least what's the likely sale for you to get, and optimizing for bigger proposals, bigger quotes, you're leaving at least 30%. And that's a bare minimum on the table in terms of profit from that account. On the high side, 300%. And usually it's going to be somewhere in the middle there, at least. I know because I've seen it. We could walk into an account. All we do is just upgrade to offline conversion tracking. Start racking up that data in the back end for the algorithm to start looking at over time. 24 months later, you're going to be making at least double just by doing that one simple thing by itself. If you do it right and you do it consistently. A lot of guys will set it up and then they'll forget about it. No, you need somebody on it like a hawk. So as soon as you got a lead that you know is good quality, it's sent back to Google for them to learn from. That said, realistically, you could even upload the data once a month and still get most of these results. Nevertheless, you need somebody at your company scoring these leads. I like to, when a lead comes in, have our client say if it's a good quality lead, that is, it's a qualified or viable lead, and then what the contract value presumably could be or is. Or if it's something like HVAC services, what the sales amount was, because sales typically occur right away and we don't have to worry about the person buying, but it was going to take a while. So, because with every conversion, you have whether the conversion happened and then associated value. So you can decide to take this value and have that value be presumed contract value or quote. It could be the sales amount or revenue that you generated, or it can be the lead score. There's no rules against this. You could say, I want to score every lead between 1 and 10, 10 being the best, and let the Google Ads algorithm optimize my leads coming in for the leads that score closer to a 10 versus a 1. And you could call it a 10 for whatever reason you wanted, whether that be it's a prospective whale customer, whether that person is highly motivated to buy, has the traits of being a good buyer, whatever you want. No doubt, the people that are going to really, in my opinion, survive over these next 10 years, it's going to be predicated on how good is your tracking. If you don't have good tracking and Google trying to optimize the hell out of their search results and somebody else has good tracking, they're going to be getting most of the good business. People are doing it more and more all the time. Whereas with an e-commerce business where, let's say, 20 to 30% of your sales come through the phone versus the cart, you doing offline conversion tracking for yourself, you're probably going to conservatively 50 to 100% increase profitability from your account by just adding offline conversion tracking to your business. If you're the lead generation guy, not doing e-commerce, and you're scoring the leads as best as you can. That is, you're tracking sales revenue. If you can't do that because sales typically, takes a long time for people to close, you at least do the presumed contract value. You're making at least, 30% was the bare minimum. You're probably making 150% more profit from your ads just by doing that one individual thing. What you're going to, by the way, see the most of when you implement this, which there's going to be a period of time. It isn't instant gratification, which is why a lot of people don't want to do it. You're going to have to set up a secondary goal and build up the data about whether the leads are qualified or not for a good 6, 12, 18 months, get a few hundred conversions, then switch all your campaigns to optimize for qualified leads. And then the campaign's going to be volatile for a while, but once you break through the other side of that, and 30 to 60 days later, it'll get a whole new set of legs of growth for your company. Bottom line, it takes time for it to work. You're going to have to build up the data, but the ads are just going to get more and more profitable for you once you've got this going, because the system is just going to get a much better bead on the leads that you want. You're going to optimize for the leads you want versus what you don't want. What you'll notice most of all when this happens, by the way, yes, you'll get more sales volume coming through. Absolutely. But what you'll notice especially happen is you're not going to be paying for the leads anymore. Almost every single lead coming through is going to be quality, because the system's going to put a very, very good bead on who's an actual qualified lead based upon everything that person's done leading up to that search. And they're going to track their users going back 20 years on Google. What websites they visited, have they said with a Google app on their phone recently. Everything gets evaluated into determining if your ad shows up for that search at that particular time for that particular person. We'll have markets where, like even local service markets where we're in like crime scene cleanup services, where each lead, half of them are qualified, half of them are not. And it goes to 80, 90% qualified by just doing the lead scoring like I'm talking about. But then on top of that, of course, our top line revenue profit grows, because we're also going to get more coverage. We're going to get shown a higher percentage of the time for a person that is a grand slam prospect. But the algorithm doesn't know, let us bid a little bit more to outbid everybody else for that grand slam prospect, because they don't know who's the grand slam prospect. That's why it also grows top line revenue. So anyway, this is not supposed to be a tutorial about offline conversion tracking in and itself. Just know it's important. And for that reason, you want to deal with the changes that Google's making with GBRAID, WBRAID, so that you can properly do the offline conversion tracking and don't half-ass it for yourself, ultimately, and just throw away and piss away part of the extra money you could be making by doing it. Before I get into the GBRAID and WBRAID, what you have to deal with here, though, is if you want the best ad agency working for you to set up not only offline conversion tracking, which we manage for clients as a part of our regular service, but just ad strategy in general, landing page strategy in general. This is what we offer at our agency. It's our bread and butter. We can offer you a guarantee of results on your campaigns. That is more profit on the same ad spend, or a certain level of profitability from your ad spend before paying. We're the only agency out there that does that. Let me know and reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com if you're interested in that. I also do coaching and consulting, whether you're an agency owner or an individual company that needs help. I also offer ad templates. About a year or so ago, I realized what a lot of people want is to manage their own ads. If we've worked in a market that our client has worked in already, we'll just sell them the winning ad templates, the landing page templates that work for that niche market in another city or country that they're in. And they can get the same results we're getting just by, rebranding or restyling the template for that market, and can tell them the results they're going to get with it up front before they go ahead and buy it from us. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Practically speaking, these templates are as good as gold for starting other businesses. If you wanted to start a brand new business, you would be absolutely silly to guess what might work when you could take a template, that will work for a market that that business will work, because we've done it for another client and the exact ads to sell it. So why wouldn't you start there instead of just, trying to get fancy about it? So if you're interested in that, let me know. It's like having a business in a box, practically speaking. With that said, getting back to what I was going to mention here, in reference to GBRAID versus the WBRAID. GBRAID and WBRAID, by the way, the difference between that is it's like website to app and app to website conversions itself, which practically speaking, the technicalities there are irrelevant. All you you need to know as an ad guy who's not trying to be a technical dork here and wants to make money and don't give a crap about the actual technical reasons why Google has made this change. You need to be able to track every person coming in so that if there isn't a Google Click ID there, you're grabbing the GBRAID or WBRAID, which is in its place. You're storing it so that when that lead turns into a sale, we can get that GBRAID or WBRAID and send it back to Google in replacement of the Google Click ID, okay? So for that matter, if you got the Google Click ID, to get it back to Google so you can indicate, okay, this person, he bought and he spent this much, or this person, he was qualified and he was quoted $500,000. To get that information, you can send the Google Click ID back if you have the Google Click ID via a manual upload process using a spreadsheet like I mentioned in the uploads menu of your Google Ads account, or you could use the Google Ads API to do it. So, and this is where automation can come in, because you can create a script that an employee punches in a certain field on a designated Google spreadsheet, the information sent there, to where, as long as they put certain value, like we'll have some people do is on the Google sheet, it'll have every lead coming in, their name, the Google Click ID and everything. And then the salesperson's trained that if they want their commission, they need to input the sales amount in the column for the sales amount on this sheet, so that as soon as it's punched in, boom, that fires a event through the Google Ads API, and then there in your Google Ads account is that offline sale. You could do this through a CRM, you could do this through a custom script, doesn't matter. So point is, you don't have to do it through a manual spreadsheet, even though I prefer to do that because we can manually double, triple check everyone we're uploading so we don't make any mistakes, if you will. Because every sale that doesn't get uploaded or, is uploaded and shouldn't, that's going to mess with our results, bottom line. And I want my data as clean as a whistle going into the ad account because it's our edge. I have the analogy that I use all the time. It's like going into battle at night with night vision goggles, where your competitors don't have night vision, you have it. How are they going to possibly win against you if you see exactly where all the customers are and where all the whales are, and they can't see it? And they're willing to spend $2 for a whale and you're willing to spend 10 because there's a $500,000 contract there at the other end. Therefore, with something this valuable in our hands, I don't want to be like, well, why can't we just use automation, get it close? No, I'm going to go all the way with it. I'm going to pay an employee, even if it's 10 hours a month to do this, it's worth it. And for that matter, get yourself a damn virtual assistant if it's that, if it's that big of a deal for you. Train them on a sales Loom video, how to do the uploads once a month, get an export from your billing system that goes to them once a month. They go through it, compare it to the database that captures the Google Click IDs, ties the data together, and then uploads it. Which, by the way, the best program to capture the Google Click ID by far, in my opinion at least, is CallRail. CallRail will capture the Google Click ID for every phone call, every text message that people text you if they're going to send an SMS message, every form fill automatically just by having the JavaScript code on your website. It will automatically capture a copy of every form lead across your entire website automatically and the Google Click ID. So this employee, when they're going to, do the work of uploading these sales, all they got to do is take your customer sales list from your billing system, see John Smith bought. Okay, let's see if there's any John Smiths under the form section on CallRail. Okay, let's listen to the call recordings on the call section of CallRail. Was there any John Smiths here at all? That is, I listened to the call recording because they say their name on the call, typically at least their first name, and we'll tie everything together that way. The Google Click ID is there under the call, or if it was from a form, the Google Click ID is there, and then you do your upload and you're done. And for that matter, by the way, you can actually automatically send the sales revenue amount and offline conversion, if you will, to your Google Ads account just by filling in the value box next to the call record or the form record there itself. You can also have it with CallRail that if you want, after your call's finished, you can hit star on your keypad, then that'll allow you to score the call. And if you score it highly, that'll kick off an offline conversion as well. We've done that before as well. You can also have an offline conversion set up with CallRail that if somebody uses a keyword like purchase, credit card, book, appointment, that'll immediately kick off an offline conversion as well using their conversion intelligence option on their software. So you can have automation set up in your system through CallRail without any advanced programming as well. So it doesn't have to be done with an employee, even though that kind of stuff I don't really like to do as well, unless I've got hundreds and hundreds of calls to sift through. And then, yeah, we'll do automation because it's not practical to do it manually for everybody. But if I only have less than 100 customers a month, I'm just going to do a manual process to get it completely right. So that the bit of data we do have is done as at the high, it's as accurate as possible because we got less data to work with. The algorithm does better with more data, and it's more tolerant of little errors if you have a massive data. But when you have a small amount of data, then you have a bunch of errors, then you're in hot water. You're in territory there. So, but anyway, you can use the API of which CallRail is going to integrate with and send data from CallRail into the Google or through the Google Ads API, by the way. And you could do that, of which, of course, the best way to do it is to do the CallRail to Google Ads integration. And then that'll automatically create goals in your Google Ads account so that when the value box next to your form fill record or your call record is filled out, that same goal will then update with the sales revenue from that value box itself. We do manual uploads, by the way, because I don't want my same goal that I use to track phone calls or form fills to also have the sales revenue, because I want a separate goal to track the sales so that my campaigns I can optimize purely for form fills and phone calls by itself, and then eventually optimize for sales by switching under the goal settings for those campaigns, the goal that it should be optimizing for, which is the other goal that I've set up exclusively to track sales, if that makes sense. So the transition process is easier. You technically could switch a campaign from optimizing for leads by itself using maximize conversions, and then go to maximize conversion value bidding strategy, and then they will start using the revenue tied to that same goal for optimization. You could technically do that itself, but personally, we keep it separate. I want to see it at a glance, how many qualified leads / sales I got on a separate goal versus tying that in together with the goals that track form fills and phone calls by itself. Given that, what we'll typically do with the secondary goal that tracks sales, we'll have, if the lead is qualified, we'll have that sent. If the lead buys, we'll have that lead sent with the revenue. So we'll have a separate goal that tracks whether the lead's qualified, and then it may or may not have the sales revenue tied to it based upon whether they bought or not itself, if you will. So we have not only just whether they bought or not, but we have, did they turn into a lead? Were they qualified effectively? And did they buy or not? So all three things we track. And I recommend that same setup for you for lead generation campaigns. So anyway, going back to what I was saying here, whether you use CallRail or your own scripting to send this Google Click ID back to Google Ads, the API, you send it back through a manual upload through a spreadsheet. That's how you do the Google Click ID upload to Google Ads. Now, for WBRAID and GBRAID, by the way, you only have the option to send it through the API. So when you use CallRail or another program like it, maybe call tracking metrics. I don't know if they even have their capability like that to do that because we don't use it. That's the other main call tracking program you can work with. When you use CallRail and you update that value box next to the form record or the call record, and you send that to Google Ads, you're using the API. So if a phone call was from a iOS device now, tying this all together, you're going to have the WBRAID or the GBRAID versus the Google Click ID. And in that case, it'll still send that value, that revenue you typed into the value box to Google Ads because you've got the CallRail to Google Ads integration set up because it's using the API to send the data there. So manual uploads will not work for the phone calls and form fills that come in that have a GBRAID or WBRAID in replacement of the Google Click ID. Now, one of the weaknesses in doing a manual upload itself. That all said, the percentage of the time that GBRAID and WBRAID comes up, and it varies by market quite a bit. The average is only about 10% of the time where they have GBRAID or WBRAID. If it gets to the point where 30-40% of the leads are GBRAID or WBRAID, I'm absolutely going to be using the API, even though I don't have as much control over the process, if you will. So anyway, that is what you need to know about GBRAID and WBRAID, at least as far as making more money from your ad campaigns. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, by the way, you absolutely should. I talk about every day I have a video about what you need to know about running ads online to make money with them, start to finish. And it's coming from somebody who legitimately has to spend 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm to learn it. But I share on the weekends what it is that I learn. And most of the people on YouTube are content creators, are not managing any ads themselves. And the information is very weak, if not useful at all because of that. So if you're serious about becoming a real millionaire, multi-millionaire, in fact, running ads for your business, you want to subscribe to to this channel because it's the best information you're going to find, in my opinion. I look around for information and it's very, very rare anything is of value here. So subscribe already. Take a minute to do that for yourself, and also would appreciate it as well. Furthermore, I've got a great blog on my site that I write at guaranteeppc.com/blog. The blog has step-by-step information on how to actually roll out the strategies we're using at our firm to guarantee results for our clients as well. If you have any questions about anything I cover here in reference to GCLID, WBRAID, GBRAID, off-like conversion tracking, let me know. You can ask me any marketing related question for that matter that you'd like. I get back to every single person or question on this channel in the comment section. So if you have a question about marketing, about advertising, or about the topic on this video, leave me and ask me that question in the comment section. I'll get back to you usually within 24 hours time. But that pretty much sums up what it is that you need to know about off-like conversion tracking and the changes with this GBRAID and WBRAID that's come up in recent months/years. If you have a desire to find somebody that will work in-house in your business effectively to get you results, work with an agency, you don't want to manage your ads yourself, it's hard to find an in-house employee to manage your ads, mainly because, I mean, no offense to anybody watch, best of the best people are running their own agencies because you can make the most that way, or they're running their own little e-commerce store or whatever. If you're in a non-competitive market, that could be fine. But if you're in a competitive market and or you're very hungry for the best, you would want the best person working in-house. That's the best situation, even though it's ultra expensive to get that done. Made that possible for clients in that I've invested in companies and then I've taken over their ads, and we use all our internal resources to manage their ads, and we give them free ad spend to get their ads cooking and going in the right direction. And all we ask for is a cut of your future success. In terms of revenue growth, a certain percentage of your revenue growth, usually between 1 and 10%. If you are interested in partnering like this, where we invest in your company physically and partner with you long-term in terms of an equity ownership play, we're looking to invest in a company like yours and would like to evaluate your company for this. So, as opposed to just monthly services, PPC services that we normally offer to most of our clients, we can be bona fide partners. Reach out to me at my firm if you're interested in that. I also just recently opened a Discord group where guys that watch this channel and gals that want to talk amongst each other, want to get advice on the strategies I talk about on this channel, where I can reply and so forth. You can do that all within that channel. So you can find that link in the description of this video. I've got a free PPC course or an advertising course that I offer in that group just as a get users to join. And this is thank you for joining. It takes you everything that you need to know on a high level, start to finish, to get a campaign going for your business that's going to work, to find the right places to advertise, how to create the right offer on your ad, everything from start to finish. If you want to see that course, which I should be charging big money for in and itself, is totally for free just for getting in that group. And if you like the group, of course, you can stick around, and after watching and reading the course, you can talk with other people that follow this channel. So if you're interested in that, I also have that as well. I'm going to wrap everything up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.